Hello and welcome to Paradox, Untold Stories from Athletic Directors with Dr. Danielle Lapointe and Dr. Dustin Smith. We have some crazy and unique stories for you, which are made possible by our sponsor, Wall of Fame. At the Wall of Fame, our mission is to bring your school's legacy to life. We transform school tributes to make it easier than ever to celebrate your whole community, showcasing your school's diverse history, proudest moments, and top role models. We understand that the true value of our Wall of Fame is in your content. Whether you are starting a new tribute or adding to an existing one, we give you all the resources you need to build an interactive experience and take your content to the next level. Speaking of next level, let's check in to see what Danielle and Dustin have for us today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Paradox Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. Today we are far west and we are with Daunte Gouge. How are you doing today, Daunte?
I'm doing really good. Just glad to be here and glad to be part of this. This has been fun to kind of catch up with these and listen to all of them. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to have you and excited to hear your stories. And Dustin's always excited. So, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm living the dream in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and I'm excited about this for a multitude of reasons. But we have a mutual friend, and it's actually a family relative that we found out now. It I know we've had some interesting characters on this show, but I don't know that we've ever had one that was a ring bearer for a previous guest's parents' wedding. But we've got that, and we can dive into that just a little bit. But Daunte comes to us from Oregon, and we'll talk a little bit about his time in the Northwest, Washington, and Oregon. But his connection to us is Cole Canyer, and I'm not sure that we want to claim Cole, but actually, Cole may not claim us. But Cole is
That's
a
probably
previous
true.
guest.
Speak for yourself. You guys are on your own on that one.
Cole was a previous guest, and so I reached out to Cole not long ago, and I said, all right, give me a list of people in the Northwest who I need to talk to. And his first recommendation was Daunte, and so I said, all right, I'll reach out to him. So I emailed Daunte, and his response, and I quote, was, I do whatever Cole Canyer tells me to do. Now, I'm not sure that that is a positive thing all the time,
It's
or
in
if that is a
writing.
negative thing, but his response was, if Cole told me to do this, I'll do it. And so Daunte listened to a few of the episodes, emailed me back, said, I'm in. I think this would be a lot of fun. So we're excited to have Daunte, man. I'm glad you jumped in here. And so what I want to start off, we can talk about Cole Canyer. We can talk about your long history in education and back in the PE days, and we kind of joked about it off camera about elementary PE and just the fun that could be. But I always like to ask this question. Tell us what the resume doesn't tell us about who Daunte Gouge is. What do you do when you're not an AD or when you're not teaching? You love education, but what do you do outside of being an AD?
Well, first of all, thank you for this, and thank you to Cole. And I do. He told me to get my CAA, so I went and got my CAA. And then he told me to get my CMAA, and I went and got my CMAA. I'm just hoping there's not something after that because I'm not going after a doctorate.
You're done.
I would stop listening to him at that point in time. No, I grew up in a family. I'm the youngest of four boys. All of my brothers played college athletics, and my dad coached Little League baseball for 40 years. And uh, he always went by Denver. My dad's name was Denver, and kids to this day, I still have people on social media reach out to me and say, your dad was such a huge impact. And my my goal when it comes to athletics and sports is I want to be that connection. I have kids that walk down the hall and I'm like, love you, man. And they just are like, kind of look at me and they're like, all right, yeah, love you too, Daunte. And I'm like, and I go by my first name. And because I want to create connections and relationships. And it doesn't have to be athletes. I'm a huge advocate of the programs outside of athletics because I just want kids to be able to connect. And that's why my office has pictures of my family so kids can come in and see that even though I'm an assistant principal, right, I'm this person that they can connect with. And that's always been my goal. I told you a little, Dustin, that I taught for the same school for 23 years. And when I met my soon-to-be wife, in the typical coaching realm and football and things like that, I was on a trip with Catherine, and I get call from the head football coach, and they were doing like a camp, and I can't find this. And she's like, we need to talk about where this is going between you and I if you're always going to be getting calls from the other coaches. And I go, well, I want to be like my dad. And when I coach, I feel close to my dad. And 2 days later, I get another call from the same head coach. And she goes, we need to have a conversation about this. And I go, I told you. And she's like, I think we should get married at a football game. So I called our head coach and I go, hey, Jim, Catherine wants to get, we were out of state. And I text him, I go, hey, Catherine wants to get married at a football game. And I coached with this guy for, at that point in time, 18 years. And before I set my phone down on the table, he replied with whatever it takes. So we got married at halftime of a high school football game, and because we couldn't figure out who we weren't going to invite. And 50-yard line, my boys came out and scored 35 points in the first quarter. And we had the reception in the gym. I'm still kind of in a weird litigation with the school because I think some of that ticket gate should have come our way. I think some people were there just to see the wedding. But that didn't happen. And the best part of that is the very next week we go to play an away game, and all these kids keep coming up and be like, hey, congratulations. And I'm like, these are kids from the other school. And I'm like, thanks, thanks. And I walk up to one of my friends who's coaching on the other team. I'm like, why are all your kids know that I got married? And he goes, oh, we watched it because your film person just tilted the camera down and filmed the whole ceremony. The entire visiting team just watched our wedding as it went through the thing. So
videographers are expensive, so I feel like you got a deal right there.
We had a great deal, yeah. Our school photographer took all the pictures. The parents did cupcakes and stuff like that. So it's, I think a lot of our family had never paid to get into a wedding before because I was not smart enough to create a pass list. But
do you have a picture
make sure
of
that there was no admission for that? It was just, hey, everybody's got to pay to get in. I mean, you got to worry about the gate.
Oh yeah, for 100%. So yes, and I sent Dustin a picture, so I don't know if he has it, but I'm trying to see if I can call it up. But I don't know how it'll show up because I can't share my screen. But yeah, that's our halftime of our football field. And I am we all have one of those people that we work with or coach with. I'm always in shorts. And I'm that guy, we all have somebody like that. And that is my deal with our head coach was I'm never going to coach in pants until we play indoors. And I showed up for that game and I had my shorts and and I opened my office door and there's a suit in there. I was like, you dirty dog, Jim Shapiro. He set me up. So the entire coaching staff was in shirt and tie. And then 2 years later we played in the state championship. And I wore shorts, so it's on.
I worked with a guy, and there's so many questions I'm going to ask in a minute, but I worked with a guy at the collegiate level that wore shorts, and he called them his winter shorts, his fall shorts, his spring shorts, like they were any different. It was just short pants, and he wore those, so I can appreciate that. But I want to ask, was your wife or is your wife a coach, or was she just supportive of this process? Because I can imagine having that conversation with my wife saying, hey, we want to get married at halftime of a game. I mean, it was her idea. So was she a coach, or did she just understand your commitment to athletics?
She was a coach. So she was a coach and PE teacher. And we met through a friend of mine and her daughter. And I had sat down with her daughter. Her daughter was a collegiate pole vaulter, and I was a track coach and coached pole vault. And we kind of hit it off at this event that we were both at. And she called her mom right afterwards and said, I met the perfect guy for you. And her mom was a PE teacher, health teacher, and track and field coach. And when we met the first time, we were just talking back and forth, messaging. And then we met for dinner. She was in Portland and I was in Seattle. We met in Chehalis. And we've been together ever since. So she's the perfect fit for me. She's really connected. She teaches culinary arts. And, she's gone away from teaching now because we have grandkids and stuff, but she misses it. She comes and, has her kids that play on these different sports teams. And she's all excited about tomorrow. We have a wrestling match and a bunch of her kids because she used to teach at the same school. She teaches a different school now, so she's all excited to see some of her wrestlers compete tomorrow night, and we're it just makes it nice when I can go sit next to her because we tend to see them more at sporting events than I would at home a lot of times when it gets
Right.
busy. She's pretty
Danielle, I
much
know you got a question, so I'm gonna let you
No,
ask
go
a question.
ahead. I'm processing at this moment. I'm just trying to think of like what my husband's reaction would have been if I was like, let's get married in game. That would have been like, I would have been worried. I would have been like, I don't want to go overtime. I don't want to go past
Well,
time.
it
I
was
want to
halftime.
extend it.
that
Well, I
was the
know,
crazy
but
thing.
there's still time.
The other team went in, and the people from the other team just sat in their stands and watched. And I mean, it was a league competition, so a lot of the coaches knew me. So it was. I mean, their team didn't stay out, but it was a really fun night. It was, I think, my favorite picture from the entire night was our volleyball team had traveled to Spokane for a volleyball tournament, and the coach took a picture, and here is 15 volleyball girls huddled around a computer monitor because we were live streaming our game, and they live streamed the wedding. So they didn't want to miss it. So all these girls are all tucked in really tight to the TV, and it was just really kind of a cool thing that even the fact that they were gone, that they were still able to take part. And the school paper had the middle section was an invitation to everybody to come. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
I mean, what an incredible event, and be able to pull that off. And I know how protected half times are, with at least in this part of the country, with bands performing, both visiting and the home band, and the cheerleaders and dance and doing all their performance. So for you to be able to protect that time, either you're the envy of every man ever that wanted to be able to do a wedding like that,
Yeah.
or every woman is cringing, thinking, "Why in the world would your wife want to have that wedding?" Because my wife was a heck no. We got to have this. We got to have this tux, and I got to have all these bridesmaids. So who accompanied you? I know you showed us the picture, but who were your groomsmen and bridesmaids for that?
Then my wife's son, she was previously married, and her husband had passed away. So her son walked her out, and then her daughter walked with us. My entire family and everybody was just sitting behind us. And then King's is a preschool through 12 private Christian school. So our senior Bible teacher did the ceremony. So the
How
only
awesome is that? I mean,
You said earlier. Yeah, you said earlier you won the game, right? Like that game, you won it.
they scored 35 points in the first quarter. So yeah, we won the game.
Okay, I was just gonna say, because I don't even think that's like a wedding thing, but like it's a bad omen. I think if you get married at halftime and then the game, you lose the game. So like you didn't do that, so you're good. You're safe. Your
And
marriage is gonna be great.
we picked the date. We didn't look at who the opponent was, or anything like that. So it was uh my wife said, "Yeah, then you're not going back up for the second half." And I was like, "Whoa, wait." She's like, it's like 46-0. I think you're okay." And I'm like, "Oh, no." And
I still got a
the
job
best
to
part
do.
was my after the reception gift for my wife is I have a buddy that works in apparel, and I had made her a #1 football jersey in our school colors with our name on the back. So she got to change out of her dress, and she was wearing a football jersey for the reception after the game, which was kind of fun. So
that was going to be my question. Your reception was after the game. You didn't go for the third quarter.
she didn't let me. That was
Yeah.
part of the agreement, apparently. So
How did you handle? Were you okay with all of like? I'm assuming. Well, I guess people weren't really dressed up. I was gonna say that's a lot of dirty shoes on your gym floor. I mean,
we had taken care of that. We had one of those floors where we had like the 3 foot by 5 foot sections that you could lay out. So we
yep.
carpeted
Okay.
the whole gym. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was fun.
What an incredible! I mean, you're definitely the first. We've never had a wedding happen at a game on this. I mean, I should have expected this with your family lineage and how Cole had the chickens that were running on the court. And can you verify whether or not there were actually chickens on his court?
I still want to find out if it was actually Cole was the AD, because that is a video that I would love to have access to. So I know he says it was somebody else, but I'm thinking that some kid has I think it was a few years ago, so it might have been a Vine, not a TikTok. So uh,
Fine.
that might be dating myself slightly by saying.
Or it's a reel to reel. We have to do the whole exchange of the reel to reel.
Cole's not old enough for
Yeah,
real.
he's not old enough for that.
I'm just, yeah, I don't, you shocked me. I think it's a great, wholesome, like very happy story. I mean, the closest we've had is when we had a ring lost to the field forever. Sure, he was kind of married to the field, but not on the field and not
Yeah, I
during
listened to that
halftime.
one too. Did it fall like in the hole of the goalpost or
The
something?
array, yeah.
Yeah, Zach saying his wife even asked him, "How do you even function?" And he'll send me texts to this day that ask that question. How do I even function? I heard that just now, or whatever. But I know with just that stress that would come with that. You know, you're worried about the game. You're worried about obviously making your bride to be happy and making sure, and you're doing this outside. I mean, I'm assuming there wasn't a dome, so you had to just be whatever the elements were. You were just going to have to endure the
And
elements. And
we were married on October 5th, 2012, and it was 62 or 63 degrees. It was just a beautiful night. One of our football dads has a convertible Bel Air and drove her, and her mom was 90 years old at the time, drove them in and then drove us all out.
huh,
So
what a cool story. Nobody, I promise you, nobody's ever had this story on here. So that is in itself what definitely worth having you on here and having that discussion. But I know, um, especially if Cole has anything to do with it, whether it's a national convention or whether it's teaching for all the years that you have taught, you've encountered situations where you just scratch your head thinking, "Sweet Moses, what
oh,
just happened?" And I'm assuming you're going to go ahead and say at the wedding you weren't like, "Sweet Moses, what just happened?"
no, I just knew it was going to work. There was a bunch of moms that I had talked. The probably the main mom is Loretta Tranter, and I had taught both of her kids K through 12. Her youngest son was a senior that year, and she's like, "It's all good." Me and Terry, one of the coaches' wives, we got it. Have it all dialed in. They did all the decorating, coordinated. Parents making cupcakes. We didn't have a big cake. We just had like 10 dozen cupcakes for everybody that came in, and I just coached a football game. I was just completely uncomfortable because I was wearing long pants. Like, that was the only hard part for me, to be completely honest.
I mean,
So
the fact of it, you were coaching the game, went and got married. You tried to go back and coach, and she said, "You're good."
I didn't
Um,
have to. I mean, it was a running clock. So I mean, literally, that was the other great thing. Our kids kind of just took it in stride and played really, really well. I mean, we were a good team that year. I think we ended up losing in the quarterfinals that season. Um, yeah, so they just took care of business and knew that they were going to get to come down afterwards and celebrate some more. So yeah, it was really just a fun atmosphere.
I mean, I'm just, I'm in awe. I think this is an incredible story. I wish when I got married, my wife was a college cheer coach,
Huh?
and so we had planned to get married between a regional basketball tournament and the national basketball tournament. And so our girls basketball coach at the time, we won the regional, and he climbed to the top of the stairs. I was doing radio, and he climbed to the top of the stairs, and he was out of breath, and he said, "Dustin, you know you owe me lunch, right?" And I said, "Coach, I figured you did. I figured I did." He said, "You know why you owe me lunch, right?" I said, "Well, because you made it to the national tournament." He said, "No, because I just saved you a lot of money on your honeymoon, because my wife and I both had to be at the national tournament, which was the following week after we got married." So he said the school was paying for it, so we got to go. I mean, we didn't have it at a game. We
Yeah,
got married and then went to Salina, Kansas for the national tournament, which was as close as I can get to being married at a game. But
I was
he
really
told me,
hoping
I
you were
say
going to
he
say
saved me
like
money.
you had a wedding pyramid. That would have been really cool. That would
Yeah,
have been
that'd have been I probably would not have been the flyer. Just going to point that out.
I love Danielle. Your face when he said that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Danielle really has no idea what I'm going to say.
That's why I am the editor.
She can control a lot of this.
Yeah.
So, Daunte, if you don't want to talk more about the wedding, I can ask more questions. If you've got another story we want to jump to, we can jump to that. But a part of this is just having conversation, just being able to talk. I can go on and on and on about this wedding situation. But if you got another story, don't let me keep us stuck in the mud here.
Well, I will. I'll also switch directions. I think one of my favorite stories of being at King's was one of our dads came into the gym for youth basketball, and we had a new custodian taking over in the gym. And as the coach walks in, there's water everywhere, and no one had told this person how to clean a floor, so he had the hose on the gym floor, and
No.
that's how he was going to clean it. And we all have these floating gym floors, so this guy starts calling everybody and freaking out and gets everybody down there, and right in the middle of the main court key, it just goes whoop, like this.
Wait, he had a hose, like an outdoor hose.
Yes, from the custodial closet, and in his mindset it would be really easy to fill it with water and then use
Like
the
squeegee it
floor
off.
cleaner to clean it off. And if you don't know about gym floors and things like that, it's just, honestly, he was just trying to do his job better. And we literally 10 days after this event, we were going to host a playoff basketball game. So they had to get the restoration people in, and the gym had to be at like 90 degrees. They had blowers going. So, and of course, we're basketball season, so it's winter. So we're trying to teach PE with fans everywhere, and they literally had to cut a piece out to get it to settle and redo it. And it literally cleared. We had plans to, if we had to play somewhere else, we had those set, but literally like the day before, it kind of all flattened itself out, and we were able to play at home. And it was one of those things when you walk into your gym and you would have never, like you said, expected a chicken. But this guy was just, no
a hose is worse than a chicken. I'm sorry.
Yes. So,
well, the hose may need to be used after the chicken's there, but that's a whole nother story.
But it was just, it's those things where you have to kind of think on your feet as an athletic director, or, as working in an athletic department. And, you always get caught off guard. And I've realized that you have to be quick and calm at all times. Somebody starts something in your crowd. We played a playoff basketball game. I want to say it was that same season, and we were playing a team from Orcas Island, and they have to take a ferry off the island to get to us to play this game. And we're beating them pretty good, and our crowd started chanting "Start the boat" instead of "Start the bus." And I wanted to turn around and be like, no, and I was like, wait, that's actually pretty. I'm going to let that go
for a little bit.
That's actually pretty funny. So, okay, now calm down. Hey, no, knock that off. But you kind of have those reactions when stuff like that happens, and you're just kind of like.
Forgive me if this causes some PTSD, but I want to talk about the floor warping. You had only one section. They put the hose on the floor and water down the whole floor, and only one section was what warped or
it was really crazy. Apparently the restoration people said it found like the weakest spot with the water that had gotten underneath. And
there's the glaze. It's not glaze, but it's on top of it.
The crazy thing was it was on the opposite side of the court from where he was spreading the water.
It traveled like under all the way over there in like the lowest spot. Oh my god!
And it was.
I have so many questions. Okay, what happened?
You wouldn't have been able to play because it was enough of a pop up that it would have, and it was dead center of the key. It was dead center. So they actually had to. bring a saw, they cut out part of it, and it settles itself back down, and then they had to put sealant over the top. It was crazy.
W What happened? Like, what was your conversation with Hoseman? That's his new name now.
Yeah,
How did
I
the
mean,
conversation with Hoseman go?
he just no one had told him. He was just told he needed to wet mop the entire floor, and
He took it
it's
literally, like,
yeah,
really, really literally.
and he just had no idea. I don't even know if he realized the repercussions afterwards. I think it was just I think they moved him to a different part of the school. I mean,
Smart.
it just tells you, like when we tell kids this is what you're supposed to do, we should really tell them all the steps. He just
It was an
Yeah,
accident. It was a
yeah,
mistake.
oh yeah, completely, and had no ill intentions on trying to ruin a court, but
right.
just hadn't been told, hey, this is the process of when you're gonna wet mop the floor. I'm like, in the back of my mind, is like, just let me do it. Just let me clean the floor. You can just empty the garbage. I'll do the rest. It's
Yeah,
like,
especially as OCD as you are, as the clean
Uh-huh.
freak as you are, as you
yeah,
mentioned. I mean, I can only imagine your dismay when you saw that. Now, kudos to you for keeping calm even in the chaos.
Did
But
you walk in and see it that way? Like, did you actually walk in and see, like, the hose, like, spewing
no, it
water?
was. What's funny is the person that found it. His son plays in the NBA right now. It's Corey Kispert's dad who plays for Washington, and his dad was running the youth things, and he's instantly calling all of us.
Oh, I
And,
see.
and at the same time, so we didn't see it until the next day where all the water was up, but we could see there was going to be issues. So they had to take off all the covers around the edge of the gym. They had to take them all off and plastic it and blow air underneath for a week, and the heat was all cranked up. And so the team's trying to have practice that week on the other side and using our other gym. Yeah, it was really kind of a crazy time on how they had to handle it. And you have middle school basketball, so your basketball teams, your varsity basketball teams are practicing, after them in the other gym, and it was quite an ordeal. So it was kind of fun
well,
to
like
look.
you said, I mean, it was not intentional on his part. He wasn't trying to ruin the floor. Did you
Yeah.
have any fun with it and call it like Kings Lake Court, or did you?
No, no.
That's
We
not fun. There's nothing fun about this. This was years ago, and I'm stressed about it. It wasn't even my gym.
yeah.
This is
It was.
this
I
is
mean, I can't imagine. I never saw the actual bill, but we had those restoration people there for like a solid week. And I was like, be like if your basement flooded. I mean, it kind of puts you completely out. So it was
a lot of
crazy.
water.
A lot of water, a lot of noise. All
What
those
time
people
of the
in the
year
gym.
was it?
No, it was basketball season. It was probably in January.
In the winter? Okay.
Yeah, because it was right before playoff basketball, so it was probably late January, February.
I mean, I can't imagine just walking in and being like, "Oh my," and and you got to
Yeah,
keep your calm and just say, you know what? Okay, here's the situation. We can't belittle the guy. I mean, he was just trying to do his job. He wasn't instructed in what to do it. He was just in his mind. This made the most sense.
yeah.
I can
This
just
is
wet the whole court and do it,
yeah,
and
and
then
this
you
is
got
gonna
to
be the this is
deal with
gonna be
all
the
that.
this is gonna be the quickest way to do it, and
Right.
I feel like we always try to have a takeaway from all stories, and I think that this is a good time for you guys to recognize that you should update your custodial training procedures. I feel like they need to be modified and updated there.
oh, for sure. It's you're trying to make sure everybody has their stuff set and how to do it. I mean, I realized I had when I moved to Oregon, I had a young man I worked with, and I literally the best thing for him was I created a game day and it had to be he was my event setup guy, and I had to like, no, you can't start setting up chairs until the PE class is over. So you put the chairs outside the hallway at 3:05 and you enter at 3:10.
Mhm.
And once he had that, he was completely successful. Before that, he was getting yelled at by the PE teachers, and what do you mean I can he just needed it all spelled out. And we're going to
So,
work with those type of people all the time. I mean, sometimes I need that. So it's like,
Oh,
but I know, and I'm just going to take some liberty here and jump to something you talked about before we went on, talking about the story, just so people will understand just how
mhm.
neat, freak, clean,
Gym
all the
floor
stuff that you
obsessed.
wanted to do.
Mhm.
But I want you to tell that story of the situation that you dealt with in the snow. I'll just say that it was basketball seasons in the snow, which seems to be pretty much a recurring theme with you, the basketball season and what that looks like. But tell us that story just so our listeners can understand just the type of person you are and what you had to deal with.
Well, we had it was another funny one that we've all had popcorn burn at an event, but we had a snowy. It was a girls' basketball game. We had a good program. The program we were playing was a very good program, and fire alarm goes off because they burnt popcorn in the concession stand. So we have to everybody outside, and as you know, the fire department shows up. We get cleared to go back inside, and everybody's outside where they've been out in the snow or in the salt or in the ice melt or whatever was outside. So yeah, we had to grab two coaches to dry off the players' feet as they came back in because they're in their game shoes. And my mindset is I don't want that ice melt salt stuff on my floor, but at the same time we don't want kids to get hurt. So one of our coaches at Kings is at everything and he coaches multiple sports, and him and another guy had towels down, and we've got kids, stepping on the towels, but we're also wiping off their shoes to make sure they're not tracking all that junk from outside, and directing the parents to go in a different, side of the thing and wiping off and just making sure that not only is our floor safe, but at the same time, we want to make sure the kids are safe too. And, one kid who's got the one shoe with a rock in it. And so you just have to be prepared for anything.
I'm just assuming that they didn't get to grab like warm-ups or sweatshirts or go to the locker room. They just had to clear out because when fire drill goes off, unless you're Thomas Fredrickson,
I was gonna say this isn't Freddie's episode, so you gotta go.
you gotta go, and so they're outside. And if there's snow, it's cold.
Yep.
They played basketball, so some of them may be sweating at that point.
At
what point in the game did that happen?
I want to say it was after half. So I mean that was a long time ago. So I'm just trying to recollect, but I'm pretty sure it was after halftime. And we're trying to make everything kind of go quick because this team was from North Washington. Kings is just north of Seattle, in a town Shoreline Edmonds area, and this team was from Liberty Bell, and so they're way up north, almost. Just so they have to trek home through this weather. And so, we were trying to make sure everything was kind of going quick. And as we were cruising through, and then sure enough, this happens and there's a big delay in this event. So yeah, it was a definite wrench in the system. It would have been a lot nicer if it was someone that was close and didn't have a long way to drive. But no, we were trying to get them all back in and get the game going and play. So yeah, it was one of those funny occurrences.
Well, I'm just imagining how bad the concession stand workers felt when they knew that set off the alarm and everybody it shut down everything. It wasn't just, hey, we smell burnt popcorn, which that's a distinct smell. Everybody knows what that is. Yeah. But not only that, the alarms are going off and people have to evacuate because of this situation. Again, not intentional. It was just a situation that happened.
Oh no, they might have been selling hot chocolate on the backside, so when the people were coming in, so maybe it was
making money off this deal.
Maybe this is a great idea. Let's make some hot chocolate.
And Dustin, you just pointed out a really important part, right? Like both of these stories, nothing was intentional. And that's like the life story of an athletic director. Like all of these things happen that we have to deal with, and the majority of them are not intentional. They're the mistakes. They're weather related. They're, burnt popcorn. It's, someone who doesn't have the right training. You don't know you can't plan for what you don't know is going to happen type of situation. And why I think these conversations are just so valuable, because I know if I've ever heard about hose in the gym. I'm still on that one. I just want you to know I'm stuck on the hose on the gym floor because I can't, like, you're out there watering your flowers, like just full on hose. I can't wrap my head around that one right now.
When you get the phone call about that, it is just as you picture the worst. I'm thinking he's been doing it for 2 hours, when they first called me and told me. And it was enough that it did, it affected the floor, but your worst thoughts come in. And
well, you want to talk about servant leadership when you get down there and wiping off shoes of kids that are coming back onto the floor. the good book talks about a guy washing people's feet, and this is an opportunity for them to get down and clean off the feet or the shoes of these basketball players in the event to let them play. And I think the takeaway for me is whatever it takes to let kids play, but play safely. And that's what you were subscribing to, just saying, okay, we're going to be able to play, but here's how we're going to have to do that. And if this is what we have to do, I've got coaches that are willing to do this. I'm willing to do this, whatever it takes to be able to allow kids to play. And I think that's the mantra of any AD.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the contest must go on, is what you say. And it's you start talking about these stories and they all just start coming back with that mindset. It's like so much stuff has to happen and just to get the game to play. And it makes me think we had a game when I moved to Oregon. I was the athletic director at Park Rose High School, and we were playing a game against a league opponent, and we had a lightning delay. We don't get a ton of lightning delays, but we get a lightning delay in the JV game, and we were playing a doubleheader, and then all of a sudden we start the varsity game, and with like a minute left in the second quarter, we have a lightning strike. So we send everybody in, and we're announcements, an old wood stadium. So we're just saying, hey, you need to stay in the stands. Our announcer is this great announcer, and he's telling everybody to stay there. And we're resetting the clock every time we see it. So I'm going in and talking to the coaches and the officials, going back out and relaying it by radio to my announcer. And we say, hey, we're just going to cancel the last minute and a half. And then we're going to come out after this delay after half, And we make that adjustment. We had one more like right when that happened. So now we're going to have a 30-minute halftime. And I come out after talking to everybody, and our band is taking the field. And I'm like, I never communicated to the band director. And I was like, well, that's kind of a drop of the ball, Daunte. You probably tell them that, no, we made the announcement that, hey, we're not going to come back out for that last minute 20. We're starting halftime. He said we're still in a delay, but they just heard we're in halftime. So they start marching out, but I'm like, no, get back in the crowd. So
yeah, with their metal instruments.
The drum major on a metal stand.
Stand just above everybody else.
Our band at Park Rose was phenomenal and big. So it's like trying to get them all to go back up, and they're like, this isn't. I'm like, this has nothing to do with band and football. This is just we're still in a lightning delay and trying to get them to go back in the crowd. And it was, we all make mistakes, and that interpretation didn't get that information to Kai, and she's one of my favorite people ever. And it was just like, no, get back. We're still in a delay. And people are like wondering what's going on. You have to think on your feet. I mean, that's the life of an AD. It's like, what's going to happen is going to happen, and you just have to figure out how to work through it and deal with it. I think is the mantra. So
adapt and adjust.
Exactly.
I mean, whatever it may be. And Daunte, man, I took Cole's word, and Cole. I mean, this may be one time that I say Cole was right, and I hate to even utter that to where it's recorded, so he will actually hear this. But man, I appreciate your willingness to jump on here. I love your stories, and I look forward to being able to sit down with you. I hope you're in Orlando, and if you're not, then at some point be able to pick your brain a little bit about some stories on Cole, yes, but also some stories about elementary PE and just your life and education, because I think that's a phenomenal testament to who you are, to be in education as long as you've been and still plugging away and doing this thing and trying to make our profession better. So I value that, and I'm appreciative of you taking the chance to jump on here.
Oh, 100%. And it's great to share stories and listen to stories of other ADs. I'm going to skip Orlando just because it's all the way across. I'm planning for using my budget to go to Austin the year after. But yeah, I wish I would have found your podcast earlier. I've listened to probably in the last week and a half. I think I've listened to 15 or 16 of them. And that's the great thing about this role, and even with all the turnover, and that's why I love our conference that we currently have, because we still meet in person monthly, even though we have Zoom technology. And I'm the president of our conference this year, and it's like herding cats to make sure we stay on task. But it's these stories that everybody's telling from their schools, and it's just such a great camaraderie of ads and talking across people. That's why I love the national conference. It's, to get to sit at a table and taking a class, and you're sitting with people from all over the US, and you get to just share and talk. These are just great opportunities. So thank you, Cole.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put that. I mean,
Yep.
the reason Danielle came up with this idea was just because you go to a national convention and everybody's just telling stories anyway. And
Yeah.
so this is an opportunity, a format for us in our profession to be able to laugh a little bit, to be able to have some fun and let us know, okay, I'm not the only one that's going through some crazy stuff. But then we get to hear these stories and get to be reminded that laughter is okay. And it's okay to take some time and laugh and enjoy. So I appreciate you jumping on here and doing that and sharing some joy.
Well, just a reminder that your day wasn't that bad. No one watered your gym floor. I mean, it could be worse. Could be a lot worse.
But that's important, and it's we don't know what is going on behind the scenes with our kids or with our parents. You talked about in the one story of the coach getting punched. I've been punched at a game by a parent, and you don't know what's going on in that style. So in that family, in their life. So it's handle situations. I'm currently friends. I got in an all-out argument with a parent 1 year ago, and he wanted to go on the court, and I'm like, buddy, I don't know who you were, and I go, my job is to protect your daughter, and if I had to tackle and get beat up by her dad because you went on the court, I'd do it. And now him and I are best buddies. We just didn't understand where the other two were coming from at the time, and that's what this job is creating relationships and making sure kids are safe and have opportunities, and knowing that there's other people that you can reach out to and talk to that do this same role, whether it's in, the other side of the nation or not. So this is a cool opportunity, and I just am really grateful for the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy that you came on. Thank you with your busy schedule for giving us that time. And
You got me out of lunch duty, so it's okay.
Anytime we can help with that, Daunte, just let me know.
There you go. We will record at anyone's lunch duty time.
Go.
What we may need to do is next time have you and Cole on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a blast.
Yeah, we could have some fun with that. That's a good idea, and I'll talk with Cole about that. We'll try to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave you with one thing. Just want to say, go Dogs. Go Huskies.
Yeah, big Washington fan. We can't let our Florida State friends know about that, though, because they're a little...
It's a sensitive topic at the moment.
I could talk for another hour about how the CFB worked. I'm not a fan of how it all went down. So it is what it is. So
that's another podcast.
Never should have been 4 teams to start. So.
Well, thank you again.
We do appreciate you, brother. Thanks for jumping on here, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
For sure. Thank you both so much.
That wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our sponsor, Wall of Fame, who excels at telling your school's stories and supports us in telling ours. Check out the description of this episode for a link to receive a discount on all Wall of Fame products. We are looking forward to the next story and hope you are too.